Hello friends, and welcome to another day of Vlogmas. If you're new here, my name's Bethany, and today we're going to go over the books that I read in October and November. So I haven't done a wrap-up in a really long time, and I'm going to try my best to quickly summarize these books. However, there's some of them that I don't remember anything about, and there's some of them that I just didn't really care for. So I will try to let you know as quickly as I possibly can what they're about, how I felt about them, what my star rating was, and yeah, we'll see if we can get through this. Okay, so usually in my wrap-ups, I've been doing like least favorite to most favorite. This time, just for organization and for myself to try to remember, I'm going to just go in order that I read them, or at least in order that they show up on my Goodreads. That way I don't miss anything, and that way it's not just like all the bad news first and then the great stuff at the end. So my 5 stars will be mixed in. I don't know. I think there's 2 5 stars in this list. I think I had 1 in October, 1 in November. So they will be mixed in with all the rest. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one is Tacos for Two by Betsy St. Amant. This one is a Christian contemporary romance. The faith content in it was very light, but it was really fun and I enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. This is like a You've Got Mail retelling, but with taco trucks. So there's a lot of like food things in it. It's a small town. There's like small town drama with the taco trucks, well, the food trucks. So like food truck competition, small town drama. There's some family drama in it. I thought it was really cute and enjoyed it. It's not going to be one that is like an all-time favorite or that sticks with me for a really long time, but I definitely feel comfortable recommending it. There's some good disability representation in here with a side character, and I just thought it was a really sweet book. The next one is Middletide by Sarah Crouch. I really enjoyed this one. This was 5 stars for me. There were only a few kind of things that I wish would have been a little bit different, or I wish that I would have had more information at the end, kind of. But I really enjoyed this. This is like an atmospheric mystery, and that is like the perfect book for me, and I really, really loved it. It's following our main character, Elijah Leaf, and he had like a young romance with a girl in his small town, and then left for college, I think, and promised her he would return, and he didn't. And he was trying to make it as a writer, and basically at 33, I think, he is struggling and comes home to his hometown. And yeah, at that point, or somewhere in the future after he's back home, there is the local doctor is murdered and is found hanging in a tree. So trigger warning for talks of suicide, murder that resembles a suicide, things like that. There's also an off-page child death that's talked about briefly. It wasn't too much for me, but I wanted to mention it. I really liked this book. It just was very immersive and atmospheric, and I just felt like I was there. It is a non-linear timeline, so I think there's 3 time periods that were kind of moving through the story. I like that in a mystery because I like getting little bits of the story as we go and kind of trying to piece it all together. So I enjoy that. I know some people don't. So this might not be for everyone. This was just a book for Bethany, so I was really happy about it. The next one is Pumpkin Everything by Beth Lamont. This, I think, is considered a novella. Very short. I read it in October. It was the perfect time. It's a very seasonal read. It's like a romance, small town, Hallmark style. They've actually made a Hallmark movie, which I haven't watched, but I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, but now that we are a couple months out, I really don't remember much about it at all. I do know that the main character was a horror novelist, and she wrote like about the characters in her small town, or like she incorporated people in her small town in her books, and then she came back. I think there's something about the business. So there's a business that her grandparents owned. Yeah, called Pumpkin Everything. Anyway, there's like something going on with that, and yeah, I don't remember much about it, but it was cute, and I recommend it for this season as just a quick, fun, cute read. The next one is The Pageant by Lee Walker. This is the first book in Vampire Royals series. This was also very short. Like, I would consider it a novella. And honestly, that's the only reason why I finished it. So I rated this 2 stars. This was to fulfill a prompt for the Twilight-a-thon readathon. And the prompt was like a book with a vampire. And I was trying to find clean vampire romance, basically, and that's what led me to this one. It was okay, but I just really wasn't into it. I just didn't feel connected with the characters. I didn't like the vampire, like the blood and vampire stuff. I just felt like it was a little too much for me. It was clean as far as like sexual content, but I don't know, it was just okay. If it wouldn't have been so short, I just would have stopped it, but it was like, I'm already this far, just finish it. It was a very, very quick read, and I had it on audio, so it was pretty easy to complete that for the readathon, but not one that will stick with me or that I recommend. The next one is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I'm going to try not to talk too much about this one because I do have a vlog of me reading this, so I will link that below. This is a very atmospheric thriller, and I loved it for that. The only issues I had with it were, I think, just it was a little bit dark at times, which is what you would expect from a thriller. And there was some sexual content in it that I just felt like is completely unnecessary. We don't need that in our thrillers. Please just keep it out. But overall, I really liked the story. I liked the mystery. I was so invested, needed to know what happened, had some theories. I was right about one of my theories, and I just had a great time with this. But it gets 4 stars because of some of that stuff that I just wish wouldn't have been in there. It is about teenage girls going missing, being murdered, but I felt like that content wasn't too descriptive for me compared to some other thrillers. So I don't know, yeah, it was good, but also heavy topic wise, but very captivating. So I am a little bit hesitant to pick up more by Stacey Willingham, only because I think her most recent one, the synopsis sounds way too much for me. Like, it's about, I think, her young son going missing, the main character. Anyway, I don't know, it just felt a little bit too much for me. It was a little bit psychological at times, A Flicker in the Dark, and I liked that. But anyway, I recommend it if you're prepared for some of the content that is in it. I do have that one. I didn't hold it up while I talked about it, but here it is. Maybe I'll put a picture up when I'm editing, but I do own it, and so this is what it looks like. The next one that I read is Lightfall. Who's this by? Tim Probert. This is a graphic novel. This is one of the few graphic novels that I've ever read. I'm not a big graphic novel person. However, this one intrigued me because it's just beautiful. The illustrations are so beautiful. It was a very sweet, fun, adventurous fantasy story that I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars. I read it like in one day, and it was fun. I did recommend it to my son. I let him pick it up. So for me and my judgment, it was a fine one to let him read. He's 8, so and he likes graphic novels. So, and it's just very beautiful. The next one I read is Anne of Green Gables. I buddy read this with my daughter and I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm gonna give it a star rating because, so this tells you that it wasn't 5 stars, because I would if it was 5 stars. It's probably more like 4 for me. But I didn't rate it on Goodreads because I feel like it's a classic. Like I feel like I can't rate it. I also think depending on like my mood, it could have been a 5 star. I really liked the second part of it. At first, Anne was funny and I enjoyed her character, but she's a lot. And anyway, it was just, I don't know, it didn't give me that 5 star feeling necessarily, but it was really good. The end was great. The whole story, I can understand why this is a classic and why it's so beloved, because it's just such a good story overall about found family and growing up and love, and it's just very sweet. So I enjoyed it. Didn't really feel comfortable rating it, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. And I can see myself rereading this one for sure and continuing on in this series. The next one is The Funeral Ladies of Ellery County by Claire Swinarski, and I have really mixed feelings about this one. So I probably wouldn't recommend this book, but I did enjoy parts of it and did feel connected to the characters. There's really like 3 main characters in this. It's a multi-generational story about a family, a grandmother, her granddaughter. It is set in a small town that reminded me a lot of my small town that I grew up in, and there's some like food elements, but I think this cover is very misleading because this book is heavy. It has a lot of trigger warnings. There's an off-page mass shooting. However, the book deals a lot with PTSD, so there's a lot of flashbacks, so it doesn't really feel off-page, if that makes sense. Like, that's a huge trigger warning. There's grief and loss. One of the main characters, he lost his stepmom and he was very close to her. I mean, she was definitely like a mother. I liked that representation because I love a good step-parent representation in that relationship, because that's my experience. But yeah, overall, another thing why I wouldn't necessarily recommend this is because there was so much language. So it was clean as far as sexual content, but not in the language. The language was a lot. So yeah, there's some violence in it. Like, it's very misleading. This cover does not represent what this book is about. It is about a small town community coming together to help the grandma character in this. She was like a victim of fraud online, and that part of the story really resonated because, I don't know, if you have grandparents, they've probably experienced some type of like internet fraud, or at least been targeted for it. And so I really felt for that part of the story, and just like the aging process, because we did get perspective from the grandmother, and I don't know, I really liked that part. So there was parts I really liked about it. So overall, this got 3 stars from me, but there's a big caveat just because of the content and the language, and yeah. So all right, the next one is The Naturals. This is also in that same reading vlog, so I am going to try to be brief on this one. Most people know what The Naturals is about. It's a YA thriller, Criminal Minds type book, and wow, this was really good, but also way darker than I thought it was going to be. Just for my personal preference, I did rate it 4 stars. I was buddy reading this with Chrissie, which we had such a fun time. That was really fun to read it with her and talk about all that was going on. But yeah, it was dark for me. I mean, it's serial killer. It's just, it had more detail than I thought it was going to. And yeah, it's a good story, very fast-paced, very easy to read quickly. But kind of dark. So 4 stars for me. Most people I feel like really like this book, and I am going to continue in the series with Chrissie. So that's going to be fun. And I've heard that the last book is really dark, so that makes me nervous just because of how I felt about this one. But I am going to continue with Chrissie, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, the next one is Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon. This was my first Spurgeon book, and I definitely plan on reading more. This was kind of structured a little bit different than his other books from what I've heard. It was very like topical, but it's all about like honest faith. That's the title, but about doubt and working through doubt and just kind of, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. It was good for me. I gave it 5 stars. I was reading this as a read along with Deea and Tiffany and Chrissie. So all of the chats are over on Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia at her channel. So I can link her below because if you're reading this book later, I would definitely go watch those because it's so good. The conversation really made this, I think, 5 stars for me. I was really getting a lot out of it, but then being able to talk about it, I was just in the comments, but being able to talk about it with those ladies just really elevated that whole experience. I just loved it. I really loved Deea's thoughts on it. Like, I feel like I learned so much from Deea in those videos, and I just really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to be reading more from Charles Spurgeon. I feel like this is like the good, rich type of Christian nonfiction that I'm looking for, so I'm excited about that. The next one is Indigo Isle by T.I. Lowe. This is my first T.I. Lowe, and I've just had a feeling that I'm really gonna like her. She is a Christian contemporary writer, or this one is contemporary. She's a Christian author. One thing that I've heard about her, and I would definitely say from this book, is that she is not afraid to tackle intense topics. So in this one, there is some sexual assault, specifically like workplace, so kind of like Me Too type of things. I felt like she handled it so well. Yeah, I feel like she did a really good job. And yeah, I enjoyed this. This is kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So this main character, I don't remember names, but main character girl, she is like a location scouting person for like TV shows and movies, and she ends up like finding this island called Indigo Isle, and she really wants to use it, but that man who lives there is like grumpy and doesn't want to allow people on his island, and he also has like scarring on his face. He has a traumatic history. There is I don't know, check the trigger warnings. I don't want to spoil things, but it's heavy. It's heavy topics, heavy situations for both characters. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. It just wasn't quite a 5-star level, but it definitely makes me want to read more of T.I. Lowe books. And I'll recommend this and keep it on my shelves as long as people check the trigger warnings. Okay, the next one I read is Across the Ages by Gabriel Meyer. This is the 4th book in the Timeless series. I don't have it near me. I don't know exactly where it is right now, but I do own it. And I buddy read this one with Jess from Pages and Grace, and I really enjoyed it, although I feel like this one, I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I think it's the first time I've given less than 5 stars for the Timeless series. And I don't know if it was just my mood. I feel like in November, I was definitely in a slump, and I don't know, things just weren't working very well for me. I still really enjoyed this book and really enjoy the whole series. Highly recommend it. Great faith content, great time travel concept. Like, I just really, really love it. But for some reason, this one just wasn't my favorite out of them, and I was really excited about it. So it is following, I think the 1720s and then the 1920s timeline. So it's during Prohibition, and also the 1720s timeline is like on a pirate ship, so very fun. Gabrielle Meyer really does historical content well. Like, she really does her research and has very interesting historical things that come up in her stories. I always love her author notes and kind of learning about where she gets her inspiration. So this was really good. If you don't know what the Timeless series is, it's a Christian time travel historical fiction. It's so good. Start with book 1 for sure. And I mean, it's so good. The faith content is always so good. She does faith content so well. It's so good. And I feel like you will be encouraged and inspired, and yeah, you should read these books. The next one, you know what? I'm gonna move the last 2 because I don't want to end. I want to end on a 5-star. So I have 2 more. So the second to the last one is Adorning the Dark by Andrew Peterson. This is a nonfiction that was a read along with Krista at Books and Jams, and I was on screen for those. So I will link her channel below if you want to go check those out, and maybe those videos as well. This one I did end up rating 3 stars. That's what I have on Goodreads. I think I was saying like 3.5, even though I'm very new to half stars. This was definitely more of a memoir about Andrew Peterson. He wrote the Wingfeather Saga. He also is like a musician, which I didn't really know much about his music, so that was interesting. There's not, I don't know, it's not a very like rich book with a lot of information. It's more of a memoir about his life, and I do enjoy memoirs, so it wasn't a terrible experience for me, but it definitely didn't work for a lot of people because they were expecting like more theology, more nonfiction faith content, and that's just really not what was there. There were moments where I was like, wow, like I was really inspired. I felt like, I don't know, I like his story, and I'm also currently reading through the Wingfeather Saga, so I felt that kind of connection. There were some of the music parts that I was just like, didn't care about, or didn't feel that connection with. But yeah, overall, I think you just really have to be the right person to enjoy and get things out of this, or go into it knowing it's a memoir. But even then, depending on who you are and if you care at all about Andrew Peterson, or if you're the type that reads memoirs of people that, you know, you don't really know. I don't know. I feel like this is kind of, I know people have read it and really enjoyed it and really got a lot out of it. So there's that. For me, it was just okay, but it wasn't terrible. So the last one is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. So this was the Patreon pick for Jordan's Patreon in the month of November, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Honestly, I was a little bit hesitant about this book and author. I don't know why. I think I got it confused with another book for a long time, and I was just like, I don't know if this is one that I would like. However, a few months ago, Lauren and Kaitlin read it and both really liked it. I think they both gave it 5 stars, so I was like, okay, maybe I should try it. And I absolutely loved it. It was so atmospheric, so immersive. It's magical realism, which I'm learning. I really like magical realism. For the most part, it really works for me, more so than fantasy, I think. I really like that, like, I can imagine reality as it kind of currently is. I think that's why I enjoy it. But it kind of reminded me of A History of Wild Places, which I really loved. That was one of my favorites last year. And just kind of the atmosphere and feeling kind of felt like that. So there were a little bit of like unsettling parts, and I think that's the fear I had. But it all worked out in a way that I felt really good about. There's a really good kind of love story in it. There's a big theme of like motherhood and things you would do for your child. It was so good. I really, really liked it. And I would recommend it for sure. The only kind of issues that I had, not really issues, but I just want to say this because I do talk about my faith and I do talk about Christian fiction. This book, how do I say this without being spoilery? I'll just say that there's like people using faith in harmful ways, or using their, like, I don't know how to say this. Faith isn't necessarily represented well in this book because that's not what it's meant for. It is kind of sad because I feel like it might be glimpsing into Adrienne Young and maybe her feelings or maybe hurt that has happened to her. Anyway, I don't know how to say it, and I don't want to spoil, and I don't want to discourage people from reading it. I just want you to know it might be a little unsettling because of some of the content. I'm doing a terrible job. I don't know how to explain this. There was a moment about baptism that one stood out to me and really just broke my heart, and it was really sad. Just in the way it was viewed, in the way it was used really terribly. Anyway, yeah, I feel like I've swayed you away. But I still gave this book 5 stars. There was a little bit in it that was just heartbreaking and unsettling when it comes to faith. Not necessarily faith, but like religion and religious leaders and how they might harm people, basically. Anyway, hopefully that didn't give too much away, but I just wanted to share that information with you just in case, and just to be fully transparent about my feelings on that. Okay, so that is my wrap up for October and November. I hope that this didn't drag on too long. I hope that I made sense about the books that I talked about, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So let me know what your most recent 5-star is. I think I would like to hear that. I think that would be fun. So in the comments, just let me know what your most recent 5-star is, and I would love to check it out. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.